Chapter 8. Okay, Sasuke, it seems you're just fine, Dr. Duran said, finishing his examination. He was a tall and thin man, wore square glasses, and had a face as long as Ponyta's. Nothing's wrong with you, and those burns on your neck should go away in a few days. It turned out that the Team Snake fakers had stashed the real doctor and nurse away in a holding cell designed for uncontrollable Pokemon. The police had found them, and were now questioning everyone, looking through all the files and taking notes on everything. Part of Sasuke wondered if word of this would reach his father. After all, he considered even the smallest activities of the organization important. Maybe he'd be proud of his boy for helping to turn in some of the clan's members. Then Sasuke shook his head. His father would probably be embarrassed that Sasuke was caught and tied up by the thugs, and would hope no one would mention it. Sakura had ordered the boy to have the doctor check him up and make sure he wasn't injured from the tasing incident. Sighing, Sasuke jumped off the table and made his way for the door, Bayushi following ever faithfully. Just a second. A peppy voice called. Sasuke turned around and faced Jennifer, the center's nurse and receptionist. She was a pleasant-faced woman with curly, neon pink dyed hair and full lips painted electric blue. Crazy appearance aside, she seemed to be very sensible and smart. You forgot something, she explained, holding something behind her back. Her grin was somehow mischievous. What? Sasuke began, only for the nurse to stick a raspberry sucker into his mouth. Here you go, Jennifer said, a little sugar for a sugar. Enjoy. She then added quietly, Lord knows you could do with some sweetening up. Putting on a forced smile, Sasuke thanked them and walked out, spitting the candy out into the first trash can he found. He hated sweets. So, did the doc say if it was terminal? Naruto teased, grabbing hold of Sasuke's shoulder. He had been waiting outside for him. Sasuke chose to ignore him. Where is everyone? Hinata, Sakura and Kiba are in the nursery, Naruto said. Ino went to bed, said something about wanting to get up early for something. Good, now show me the way to the nursery, Sasuke instructed. 0000. The nursery was like an indoor green room, meant to allow a Pokemon to rest in a more natural environment. It had a small pond, trees, grass, and benches and tables for trainers. Sakura, Hinata and Kiba had already let their Pokemon out. Jane was swinging around in the trees, Water Lily and Rhapsody were swimming along and having a good time, and Kiba's puppies were wrestling, though Sasuke couldn't tell if they were playing or really fighting. Waltz was sitting still, not moving a muscle, though Naruto thought he was looking at the leaves in the trees longingly. Bayushi noticed that Sakura's lap was Azurill-free, a rare event indeed, and promptly ran over and jumped into her lap. Sakura laughed in surprise. Hey guys, Naruto shouted, taking out his Pokeballs. A moment later, Kata and Puck appeared. Go have some fun, you two, Naruto explained, waving his hands. Puck ran over to Waltz and looked him over, wondering whether or not he could be eaten, before settling on some berries on a bush nearby, while Kata looked around and explored. Don't get too wound up, Sakura warned. Bedtime's in 10 minutes, understand? Let them have some fun, Kiba said, crossing his arms, how else you gonna gain their trust? Says the boy who's bitten by his Puccina every time he calls him out. Sakura pointed out. Call out your boys, Sasuke, Naruto suggested, sitting down with the rest of the group. Sasuke nodded. Togashi, Akodo, out. The Charmander and Shinx materialized. Togashi went over to Kata and the two started walking around together, but Akodo stayed close to Sasuke, slightly rubbing up against his leg. Sasuke smiled slightly and scratched the feline behind the ear. So, did the doctor say you're okay, Sasuke? Sakura asked as the boy sat down nearby. Fine, Sasuke grunted. Akodo jumped up on the bench next to his master, laying down with his paws crossed, looking dignified. Stop it! Hinata suddenly shouted, glaring at Puck, who had started licking her Metapod. If he wants to break his teeth on Waltz's shell, let him, Naruto said, looking at his furret crossly. He'll learn eventually. But he's upsetting Waltz, Hinata pointed out, hands on her hips. Good point, Naruto admitted. He got up, and started telling Puck off. The furret stuck his tongue out and bounded away. Why you miserable little, Naruto shouted, chasing after him. Watching the boy dive into the bushes after his disobedient Pokemon, Sakura chuckled and looked down at Bayushi. Too bad Puck's not nearly as well behaved as you, huh baby? Bayoshi purred loudly and rubbed up in her arms. "You're a good boy, even if you are so spoiled," Sasuke said, smiling slightly, not even noticing when Akoto started pushing up against him. Hinata noticed the Shinx glaring at Bayoshi, and was about to say something when Kiba cut her off. "Hey, look," the wild boy called, pointing. Akamaru, Togashi, Puck, and Kata were now tossing a ball back and forth. "They're all finally playing together," Kiba said. "All?" Sakura asked, cocking an eyebrow. "Are you sure you're counting that right?" "Sure," Kiba responded. "There's Akamaru, Togashi, Kata, Puck and, where's Chance?" Naruto snickered and pointed to the door. The Puccina was trying to dig under it and make a break for freedom. "Hey! Get back here, you ingrate!" 0000. When it came time for bed, most everyone agreed to let their Pokémon sleep in the nursery. It would do them good resting in their natural environments. However, Kiba declined. Akamaru slept with him always, and he couldn't let Chance out of his sight too long or the pup might escape. Bayoshi was an inside Pokémon, and insisted on staying with Sakura. Sasuke couldn't bring himself to argue against it and agreed. Yawning, Sasuke stretched on his bed. Naruto, of course, had fallen asleep within 5 minutes of lying down, and was now snoring away. Sasuke turned over and tried to tune it out, but the blonde was being even louder than normal. He was about to get up and stuff a sock in Naruto's big mouth when something scratched on the door. Figuring it was Bayoshi, wanting to sleep with him for some reason, Sasuke got up and opened it. Much to his surprise, a long furry thing zoomed in. Sasuke yelped slightly before realizing it was only Puck. "What are you doing here?" he whispered, squinting in the dark. The furret looked up at him real pitifully, eyes big and watery, before whining softly. Sighing, Sasuke just shrugged and closed the door. "Sleep with Naruto." Quickly, Puck climbed up onto Naruto's bed, and looked around. A minute later, he was curled up on Naruto's stomach. Then he was stretched out on his back, tail over one side of the bed and head over the other. Then Puck tried curling around his owner's feet. But Naruto kept kicking at him. Finally, Puck ended up wrapped around Naruto's head. The two contently slumbered. Sasuke chuckled softly at Naruto sleeping through all that before grabbing his Pokénav and taking a picture of the sickeningly cute scene. Aside from being useful blackmail for the future, Sasuke would be sure to send it to his mother in the morning, who would of course send it to Naruto's mother. Any Kushina would show it off to everyone and give Sasuke a kiss for sending it. Blushing slightly at the thought, Sasuke was able to drift asleep, now that Naruto's snoring had finally quieted down. Later that night. Tap. Z. Tap tap. ZGRHR? Not now, Bayoshi, Sasuke grunted, pulling the covers over his face. Go pee on Naruto or something. He was almost back asleep. Tap tap tap. Sasuke growled. This was going to be a long night. Sasuke, are you awake? Someone whispered. Bayoshi, I already said not wait, did you just talk? The boy sat up quickly, eyes widening, straining to see in the darkness. Facing him was something long, brown, and furry. Gah! Shush, Naruto hissed, holding up a finger to his mouth. In the other hand, he held Puck up in Sasuke's face. The Pokémon looked like he was in pain. Quiet, people are sleeping. Sasuke growled. What is it, Naruto? I think Puck's sick, Naruto whined. The furret convulsed and twisted in his owner's arms. We're in a poke center, go take him to the nurse, Sasuke snapped, wondering how dumb Naruto could get. Besides, what makes you think he's even sick? Bleh! Was Puck's response as he puked all over Sasuke. 0000. Gah! What here? Sakura shouted, jumping up from her bed, fists swinging. She got up so quickly that Bayoshi was thrown onto the ground by Sakura's sudden movements, and was hissing his displeasure. The girl ignored him and looked around in the dark. Even in the poor lighting, she could tell Hinata was thrashing around in her bed. Hinata, what's wrong? She asked, turning on the lights. Hinata's eyes were clamped tightly shut, her arms wrapped around her, as if she was in pain, and the girl was thrashing back and forth violently, crying out. Hinata! Wake up, you're having a nightmare, Sakura cried, grabbing the girl and shaking her back and forth. She didn't wake up, and continued to retch around. Wake up, wake up. Sakura screamed. She turned and ran to the door. Nurse. We need help. 00000. A little while later. So what's wrong with Puck, Dr. Duran? Naruto asked quietly. Puck was now sleeping on the examination table, having been drugged by the doctor after he had suddenly went wild while Dr. Duran was looking at him. Sasuke sat cross-legged next to Naruto, looking foul and bad-tempered. He had to shower and change clothes after Puck's accident, and he was feeling tired and grumpy. Well, it seems that Puck is just fine, Duran said, looking at his clipboard. However, I wouldn't say he's out of the woods just yet. Just lay it out straight, Sasuke sighed, no need to drag it out being polite and all. Naruto nodded. I can take the truth, Doc. I'm tough. No, really, Duran laughed, your fort is going to be fine. No need to be dramatic. Naruto exhaled, even Sasuke smiled slightly. And? Sasuke asked, tilting his head and crossing his arms. After examining Puck, I noticed he was showing the symptoms normally associated of a Pokemon injected with a TM. Then I recalled how Mr. Uchiha Naruto snickered at Sasuke being referred to so formally, mentioning how those two Team Snake thugs attempted to inject your Pokemon with them. The police had found several missing vials and pills, and even a few TMs were not accounted for, Duran said. So you think they injected Puck with a TM? Naruto asked, but Sasuke stopped them. Remember? Yes, but he did leave the two with them for some time, Dr. Duran pointed out. They could have easily injected one or both of them in the meantime. I have a list of everything missing or stolen, but I need to do some more tests to see what exactly they used on him. At least 4 TMs are missing, any number of which could have been stolen or sold. But what if they did use one on Puck? Naruto asked, almost ready to cry. Can't injecting a TM into a Pokemon that can't handle it be fatal? Don't worry, Duran said, if it was dangerous to begin with, then your furret would have reacted immediately. In fact, he's going to be fine. Really? Of course, the doctor continued with a smile. Your furret didn't react to the TM's injection immediately, so it's safe to assume his body is very compatible with it and didn't reject it from the start, as most Pokemon would. Right now, I'd say he's in the stage where his body is adjusting to the changes. So far, he's doing rather well, and I think he'll be fine. How long will this take before Puck's back on his feet? Sasuke asked. I can't give you a set number. I don't know what the TM even was or how his species naturally reacts to it. Even so, I won't pretend I'm an authority on the subject. It could take a little as 8 hours, or as long as a day or two, considering how well he's handled it thus far, but I'd be more inclined to say sooner than later. Good, Naruto breathed out. Now, why don't you two check up on your friends and then get some sleep? Dr. Duran suggested, referring to Hinata. Sakura's shouts for the nurse drew Naruto's attention, and had he not been busy taking care of Puck, he would have been with them right now. But I want to stay with Puck. Naruto protested, jumping up. Duran nodded understandingly. I know, but you need to understand that I have to run some more tests, and you might be in the way. Besides, don't you want to check on your friend? Naruto looked at his furret doubtfully, feeling torn. He stroked his Pokemon's fur, worry painted across his face. Sasuke placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Don't be afraid, he said in a steady voice. The doctor's going to take good care of him. I'll come get you the moment something happens, Duran agreed, smiling. Naruto looked at the doctor, and then back at Puck. Promise? Dr. Duran smiled. I promise. Nodding, Naruto kneeled down and gave Puck a soft kiss on the head before leaving the room. Sasuke could see tears in his eyes. He moved to follow, but the doctor held the dark-haired boy back. I think it's only practical to assume that if your friend's furret was injected, it's possible that your Eevee was, too. Sasuke nodded, wincing at the thought. Has your Eevee exhibited any signs of discomfort or nervousness? Has he been acting differently or maybe showing indications that he's in pain? No, Sasuke admitted, shaking his head, but he did want to sleep with Sakura, the little traitor. That's normal behavior for him, by the way, so I'll have to ask her if she noticed anything. Good, Duran said, however, even so, I want to examine him tonight. Why don't you bring him to me after you finish checking up on your friend? Sasuke nodded and left. Once in the hallway, he caught up with Naruto. Hey, he said softly. Naruto wiped his face before looking at him. I'm fine, the boy said quickly. Sasuke sighed. You can worry about Puck. I understand. Why should I be worried? Naruto asked quickly, voice cracking. The doc said Puck's going to be fine, so he's going to be fine. I'm not even thinking about it. Why are you? There's nothing to be worried about. You're such a wimp. As he talked, the blonde started speaking faster and faster, rambling on as he tried to act tough. Well, you know, Sasuke interrupted when Naruto paused to breathe in. Dr. Duran said Bayushi might have been injected too, and I'm worried. You are? Yeah, Sasuke said. Just thinking of something bad happening to my baby makes me want to tear up and cry. In spite of himself, Naruto laughed. You're such a softie. Yeah, his friend replied sarcastically, I wish I was tough as you. Naruto felt much better now. 00000. Hinata sat up on the examining table as Nurse Jennifer looked her over. Bayushi was curled up next to the girl, watching with interested eyes. For once, he seemed to realize that now was not the time to be begging for attention. Sitting nearby, Sakura waited silently. Well, I can safely say nothing's wrong with you physically, Jennifer said with a smile, setting her stethoscope down. She stifled a yawn. Save you might be a bit sleep deprived. But what about what happened? Hinata demanded. Can't say for sure, considering I'm trained to work with Pokemon, not a people, the nurse admitted freely, but I'd say you were just having a night terror. A night terror? Hinata asked, are you sure? Sakura noticed she seemed to know what a night terror was. I think so, Jennifer responded. You're not physically hurt, you were sleeping when it happened, you were very scared, and we couldn't wake you up. That's basically the telltale signs of a night terror. Have you ever had one before? Sakura asked suddenly. Slowly, Hinata nodded her head. I used to have them lot when I was real little, she admitted, when mother. She trailed off, and picked up Bayushi and started petting him. I see, the nurse said softly. Well, that's nothing to be ashamed of. Stress induces night terrors. Anyway, this was probably just a result of all the excitement you went through today. If these attacks continue to happen, all I can suggest is go see a doctor. A people doctor. For now, just get some rest. We'll do that, ma'am, Sakura said, winking and leading Hinata back to their rooms. Soon after they were alone, Hinata said, could you not tell the boys about this? Sakura glanced at her friend. Sure, but something tells me they're going to want to know what happened. Why don't you want them to know anyway? The dark-haired girl sighed, scratching behind Bayushi's ear absent-mindedly. I just don't want them to think I'm delicate or weak. Sympathetically, Sakura patted her shoulder. There's nothing wrong or weak about you, Hinata. But if it makes you more comfortable, I'll keep quiet. Hey! An annoyingly familiar voice called. Sakura winced as Naruto ran up to them, smiling big and proud. So, what hap? Be quiet, Sakura hissed, slapping her hand over the idiot's mouth. It's the middle of the night and Ino and Kiba are still sleeping. Seriously, Sasuke growled, slinking up from behind the blonde. So, what's wrong with Puck? Sakura asked, taking her hand away from Naruto. Long story, Sasuke said, carefully taking Bayushi back from Hinata. Naruto will have to tell you. I need to get this guy to the doctor. Bayushi said, his fur standing on end. He hated checkups, and ones in the middle of the night were no better. Why? Hinata asked as the Eevee started struggling in his owner's arms. Naruto can explain, Sasuke said simply. And stay still. He ordered, tightening his grip on his squirming Pokemon, keep it up and I'll put you in your Pokeball. That caused Bayushi to settle down. Good boy, Sasuke said smugly, turning around and walking back to Dr. Duran's room, Bayushi looking back at them over his shoulder with big eyes. Okay, Naruto said, watching them leave. Anyway, what did the nurse say about you? He asked, turning to Hinata. The girl muttered, trying to think of something. Just a nightmare, nothing important, Sakura said quickly. Eh? Naruto asked, tilting his head. But you said you couldn't wake her up. That doesn't sound normal. What did the doc say about that? She was just having a bad nightmare, Sakura insisted. Sometimes, you have a hard time walking up from one. Okay, you're the expert, Naruto said, backing away. No need to get aggressive. I was just asking. Thank you, Hinata whispered, smiling. Also, Naruto added slowly, looking somewhat bashful, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you." Both girls looked confused. "I mean," he added, not sure how to explain, "I'm really worried about Puck, and I wish I was with him right now, but I was worried about you too, Hinata. And, if Puck wasn't sick, I would have been with you, honest." "Oh, blast it all, I'm not making any sense." Hinata felt herself turning bright red. "We get it," Sakura said, smiling and squeezing Hinata's hand to bring her back to her senses. Naruto smiled, and Hinata silently thanked her. "Anyway, can you finally tell us what happened to Puck?" Sakura asked, yawning a bit. Naruto screwed up his eyes a bit. Where to start? 0000. The next morning, 6:50. Groaning, Sasuke rose from his bed stiffly. Stretching up and down, he turned to tell Naruto to get up, but stopped. The blonde wasn't in his bed. For a minute, Sasuke wondered where he could be, then he remembered that Naruto decided to stay with Puck for the night. Sighing, he got dressed and headed for the doctor's office. He needed to pick up Bayushi anyway, so might as well check in on Naruto while he was at it. Sasuke went down a hall and rounded the corner, only to nearly bump into Sakura's blonde friend. What was her name again? Sasuke didn't care. "Oh," the girl said, falling down on her rump in surprise. "You frightened me." She held out her hand for him to help her up. "Funny," Sasuke thought as he pulled the girl up quickly, "I thought I didn't even bump into her, weird." He tried to pull his hand back, but the blonde held onto it for a second. "So, what are you doing up so early?" Ino asked, smiling big and twirling her finger in her hair. "Going to get Naruto and Bayushi," Sasuke grunted, walking past her. Much to his chagrin, the girl followed. "Well, don't you want to know what I'm doing?" Ino asked sweetly, batting her eyelashes. "No," Sasuke answered bluntly. "Well," Ino went on, "I plan on catching a bus that leaves for Teal Town at 7:30. Sasuke stopped in his tracks and turned towards the blonde. "There's a bus?" Ino smiled devilishly. "Of course there's one. I plan on taking it so I can catch the early bird bus to Winterborn City." "How interesting," Sasuke mused, more to himself than Ino. Ino started, going off on something, but Sasuke wasn't really listening to what she was saying. "Sasuke." A girl's voice, not belonging to the blonde, grabbed the boy's attention. He looked up to see Sakura. "Sasuke, I thought you said you wanted to have breakfast by," she started, hands on her hips in a playful way. However, when Sakura spotted Ino, she suddenly turned angry. "What's she doing with you?" Sakura demanded in an accusing voice, pointing. "None of your business," Ino began, but she stopped mid-sentence when Sasuke pushed her towards the pink-haired girl. "We're leaving in 20 minutes, Sasuke said abruptly, walking towards Dr. Duran's office. "You and Hinata pack up. I'll get Naruto. Ino will explain." And with that, he left the two girls, who started to argue and fight, over what, he did not know, or really care. 0000. Exclamation mark! Naruto squealed, hugging his forehead and jumping up and down with joy. "Thank you, Doc." "You're very welcome," Dr. Duran chuckled bashfully. "But truth be told, I did barely anything." "You saved Puck," Naruto insisted, looking at him with big eyes like the doctor was a hero. "You're miracle worker." "That's a bit of an exaggeration," the doctor said, holding up his hands for Naruto to stop. "Anyway, on the subject of Puck's new move." "New move?" Naruto asked, tilting his head to the side. "What do you mean?" "The move he learned from the TM injected into him," Duran explained. "Surely, you must have realized that your Furret would have a new move when this was all over?" Naruto blushed. Not really. Guess you could say I was too worried to really think about it." He smiled and rubbed the back of his head. Then it hit him. "Dude, Puck's got a new move!" the boy exclaimed, looking at his Furret gleefully. "That is so awesome. What is it?" "Well, you see," the doc began, but Naruto quickly drowned him out. "I bet it's a really powerful one," the blonde said, grinning greedily. "What else would a bunch of crooks use on a Pokemon?" "Well, if I may." "Is it Fire Blast?" Naruto asked excitedly, as hopeful. "I'd love it if it was Fire Blast. Or Blizzard. Blizzard would be nice, so would Thunder, now that I think about it. If you could just let me." "I'd be happy with Flamethrower," Naruto admitted, scratching his chin, "or Ice Beam or Thunderbolt. You know, Those really awesome attacks that they always use in high-power tournaments. Will you shut it? Dr. Duran finally shouted, throwing his clipboard down on the floor and stomping his foot. Naruto quieted down instantly. Well, Duran said, clearing his throat and picking up his clipboard. Where was I? Oh, yes, as I was saying, there is no way to know what move your furret knows. Huh? Naruto said indignantly, but my Pokédex can tell me what moves my Pokémon uses. That's right, the doctor agreed, the Pokédex can identify any move your Pokémon uses or moves it should know for its experience level. But it can't tell you what moves it does know. Naruto looked confused, so Duran decided to just show him. Look, he said, pulling out his own Pokédex. Naruto cocked an eyebrow, he could tell the model was far more advanced than his. All Pokémon professors are given a special Pokédex that does a basic scan of a Pokémon's vitals, unusual traits, and other things that would be useful in a medical field. However, every dex can do this. The doc pointed the device at Puck and pressed a button. Coming to life, the Pokédex lit up and hummed for about a minute. Then it chimed in a pleasant, female voice, Pokémon species, furret. Age, late adolescence. Most probable moves known at current experience rank, quick attack, defense curl, furry swipes. See? Dr. Duran said, stowing his Pokédex back into his coat. It can only tell you what moves a Pokémon would know at its level naturally. It can't tell you anything about TMs or taught moves. Okay, Naruto said slowly, looking at his furret. So, how can I figure out what Puck's new move is? It should be a simple enough matter, Duran explained. You are headed to Teal Town, right? Don't be surprised that I know, he added, laughing at Naruto's look of shock. Every trainer that comes here is just passing though to Teal Town. Anyway, if you go to the Pokémon Center there, they'll have a device that can tell a trainer every move a Pokémon knows. Every city with a gym or other place trainers go to battle has one. League law requires it. Cool. Naruto smiled. That will make things way easier. Thanks, Doc. Suddenly, Sasuke burst into the room without knocking. Puck's okay, right? The dark boy asked, looking the furret over quickly. Yeah, but Naruto began, only for Sasuke to cut him off. Good. Listen, we're headed out in less than 20 minutes, gonna catch a bus to Teal Town. Go get ready. Sasuke then turned to the Pokémon doctor, ignoring Naruto's questions. So, I trust Bayoshi was okay? Oh yes, Duran said, perfectly fine. Nurse Jennifer took him to go get breakfast. Typical, Sasuke hissed dryly. Come on Naruto, let's go. Just a second, Duran chimed, going over to the examination table. He came back with a needle. Before you go, I want to give your furret a vitamin shot. Now, if you could just hold him down. However, as soon as Puck saw the needle, he screamed as loud as his little lungs would allow him. Puck! What's wrong with you? Naruto tried to calm him down, but the furret just jumped away and made a beeline for the door. Sasuke lunged for the beastly. Get back here, you crazy little. Wait! Dr. Duran shouted, but it was too late. Hissing, Puck whipped around and delivered a rapid succession of slashes to Sasuke's face. Gah! The boy rolled on the floor, clutching his face. The Pokémon then fled the office, crying freedom. Puck! Get back here right now, Naruto shouted, scrambling after the little monster. What was that? Sasuke gasped in pain, struggling to his feet. That would be a furry swipe's attack, Duran said. I tried to warn you. Furrets can be nasty when they're cornered. Why'd he flip out in the first place? Sasuke demanded. Well, the doctor explained, it seems your friend's furret has a fear of needles. I found out about that last night when I was trying to examine him. Nurse Jennifer had to hold the rascal down. It's probably because of the shot he got from Team Snake's TM. You couldn't tell us this before you got the Houndoom shot out, Sasuke shouted, still covering his now bleeding face. What kind of doctor are you? Let me get you some ointment for that, Duran said. 00000. 7:20, near the bus station. Hurry up, Sasuke shouted, running to the station, it's going to leave any second. We'd be going faster if you'd stop shouting. Naruto screamed back. The team had to skip breakfast in order to get everything packed, and Naruto had to waste about 5 minutes trying to catch Puck before he realized he could just return the furret to his Pokéball. Now, they had less than 10 minutes to buy their tickets and get on the bus. Okay, Sasuke said when they finally arrived, everyone check to make sure they have everything, and I'll get the tickets. You're such a gentleman, Sasuke, Ino whispered flirtatiously at the boy's retreating form. Shameless hussy, Sakura hissed, opening her backpack. Let's see, food, clothes, medical supplies. Oh no, Hinata shouted, dropping her bag. What is? Sakura asked, did we forget something? Hinata nodded. We forgot to wake up Kiba. Meanwhile, back at the Poke Center. What time is it? Snorting, Kiba suddenly bolted up in his bed. Oh no. The boy shouted, looking at the clock. I can't believe it. His winced, thinking about the huge mistake he made. I forgot to feed Akamaru breakfast. He whined, pulling his hair. Then the wild boy calmed down. Hey, I'll do it later, it won't kill him. Sighing, Kiba laid down and pulled the covers back over his head. I wonder if I can hang out with Hinata and her friends for a little while, he mused, drifting back to sleep. They seem like a cool bunch. And I can get Naruto back for kicking me in the head. Hee. We have to get back and get him, Hinata gasped, turning around and starting for the door. Hold your ponytas, Naruto said, grabbing the girl's arm, there's no time. We got his Pokenav number, so we can call him later, Sakura pointed out. Yeah, Naruto agreed. Besides, Sasuke doesn't want us getting any more tag-along. He says it's going to be hard enough catching Pokemon with the 4 of us. You mean 5, Ino added pointedly. No, he means 4, Sakura said darkly. You're not part of the team. Who said you get to decide? Ino retorted, facing Sakura. Before the two could actually get to arguing, Sasuke returned, tickets in hand. Come on, you guys, the bus is leaving. 0000. The team, and Ino, managed to jump on at the last minute, and found their seats. Now remember, everyone, the bus driver said to his passengers, this is a non-stop bus to Teal Town. I have a timetable, and I want to keep it. There is to be no roughhousing, no shouting, and no other disturbances on this bus. Driving this thing is dangerous, and I need to be concentrating on that, not on you. Also, keep your Pokemon either in their balls or, for those of you that let them roam free, he looked directly at Sakura and Sasuke, who were holding Waterlily and Bayoshi, respectively, your Pokemon are to be on your laps at all times. Don't put them down on the floor or a seat. If you need to go to the bathroom, have someone else hold them or return them to their Pokeballs. Break any of my rules, and I swear I'll kick you off this bus myself. Understand? Aside from some grumbling remarks by Naruto, everything was quiet. Good, the driver said. Now we can get going. As the bus headed off, Sasuke groaned silently. Hinata and Naruto were sitting in the seats ahead, while he was stuck in between Ino and Sakura. This was going to be a long trip. Sasuke, Ino whispered sweetly in his ear, I was thinking, don't you think it would be nice if I started traveling with you? Buzz of, you Viper, Sakura snapped, leave him alone. Who asked what you thought? Ino responded, I was talking to Sasuke, you big-eared snoop. My ears are perfect. Sakura retorted loudly. And I'll have you know. I thought I said no shouting on the bus. The driver called from the front, not taking his eyes off the road. Nice job, Billboard Brow, Ino whispered nastily. As the two girls continued to argue, Sasuke sank down in his seat. You know, he said glumly to Bayoshi, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. Vaev, the white Pokemon agreed, covering his ears with his paws. 30 minutes later. I spy, with my little eye. Naruto mused, looking around as the bus drove on, something, blue. Is it the sky? Hinata suggested. Darn, you're good, Naruto grunted. Okay, your turn. Sighing, Hinata looked around. They had been playing I Spy the entire way, and truth be told, she was getting tired of it. Naruto, not to be rude, but can we please stop for now? The blonde boy looked at her with questioning eyes. Eh? Something wrong? Hinata shook her head quickly. I don't mean it like that, Naruto. I just feel a little lightheaded and don't want to look at the road. Oh, Naruto said, nodding, okay. So, is there anything else you want to do? The girl sighed in relief. Well, I suppose you could tell me what the doctor said about Puck, Hinata suggested. They had been so rushed by Sasuke to get on the bus that Naruto hadn't been able to explain what happened with Puck. "Hey, you're right," he exclaimed. "You never got to hear the story." "Well," he began, launching into his story. From his seat, Sasuke quietly watched as Naruto and Hinata chatted. Well, more like Naruto talked and waved his arms expressively like an idiot while Hinata listened, smiling. Sakura and Ino had finally stopped arguing, and Ino had put in some ear plugs and went right to sleep. Meanwhile, Sakura occupied herself by feeding Water Lily. Smugly, Sasuke scratched behind Bayoshi's ear. Only a few more miles to go and they'd be at Teal Town, where he could earn his first gym badge. Things were going so smoothly, only an act of fate could bring them off course. And so, Naruto grinned, concluding his story. "The doc said he couldn't tell me what Puck's new move is. So I'm gonna take him to the Poke Center as soon as we get to Teal Town and find out what awesome attack he's got now." Naruto," Hinata said cautiously, "don't you think that you're being a bit rash, hoping that Puck learns a strong TM?" "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, tilting his head. "Why shouldn't I?" "Well, Hinata mused, trying to find the best word. "Couldn't it be possible for Puck to have learned something normal? I just don't want you to get your heart set on Puck learning a powerful attack and then be disappointed." "Oh, don't worry," Naruto replied, "I'll be happy with any technique he learns. In fact," he added, pulling out his Pokédex, "let's see what TMs a Furret can learn." The Pokédex dinged and displayed a list, reading it off. Furret, even compared to other normal Pokémon, are compatible with a wide variety of TMs and can learn attacks from every element. Some more notable examples are Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Iron Tail, Slash, Hyper Beam, Solar Beam, Shadow Ball. As Naruto oohed and awed as the list went on, Hinata started grimacing more and more. "Look at all the great techniques he can learn," Naruto whispered eagerly. "And Naruto," Hinata squeaked nervously, looking at the greedy look on his face almost fearfully, "I don't think you should be excited about this. I mean, I remember how sick Puck was when Team Snake." "Ah, that's because they weren't real doctors," Naruto said nonchalantly, waving his hand. "I bet a real doc would be able to inject a TM harmlessly." Flash. Without warning, a Pokeball on Naruto's belt burst open in a flash of light, and his Furret was now running around the bus in a panic. "What that?" "Ah." Though the flash of light from the ball opening caught the bus driver's attention, it was Hinata's scream of fear that caused him to rear off to the side of the road and come to a screeching halt that caused many of the passengers to fly out of their seats. Luckily, no other cars were around, otherwise there would have been a crash. "What's going on?" the driver shouted, turning around. He saw Naruto crawling around on the floor, chasing after his Pokémon frantically. "Hey!" the bus driver screamed, "I thought I said." Unfortunately, Sakura was one of the passengers ripped out of her seat, along with Water Lily, who responded to the sudden stop as any baby would. Wah-ah-ah-ah. Soon, the passengers on the bus were panicking and screaming. "Sakura," Sasuke shouted above the din, "shut that thing up." Bayoshi had long since leapt off his lap in the chaos and was scrambling around the bus madly. "I'm trying." Sakura screamed back, cradling her baby carefully. "Puck, you idiot," Naruto bellowed, crawling in between a woman's legs after his wild Pokémon. Hinata was still in her seat, curled up and terrified, her head feeling like it was being split open by an unseen force. "All right everyone, calm down," the bus driver shouted, trying to raise his voice above everyone else's. However, no one seemed to hear him. "Hey," he shouted again, "I said, calm down." To emphasize his point, he stomped his foot down. AVV. Right on Bayoshi's tail. "Ah!" the driver gasped, jumping back in surprise as the Eevee started biting at his foot in vengeance. He tried kicking the Pokémon away. "Hey, stop the... Get away from him, you and Carrot Hash." The bus driver looked up just in time to see Sasuke's fist flying at his face. Amazingly, Ino slept through all of this. Much fighting later. Off the bus. The black-eyed driver shouted, literally throwing Naruto, Sakura, Hinata, and a very irate Sasuke, and their Pokémon, out of the bus. Off. 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 First Naruto and Puck. Oh oof. Then Sakura and Water Lily. Arg. Then Hinata, who was still holding her head. Gah. And finally, Sasuke and Bayoshi, who were both swearing and spitting. RRGG. Sasuke grunted as he landed on top of the heap. He got up and shook his fist at the bus as it drove away. Come back here and fight like a man. Bayashi hissed, looking mournfully at his poor tail. What even happened? Sakura asked loudly, trying to get Waterlily under control. Puck just jumped out of his ball and went bananas. Naruto explained. What's the big idea, Puck? He turned to scold his Pokemon, but the furret wasn't standing there anymore. Hey, where's Puck? The blonde looked around and spotted his Pokemon running away. Hey, get back here! He screamed, giving chase. Oh, just great, Sasuke growled. Come on, Bayashi. He and his Pokemon ran after the blonde buffoon. Come on, Hinata, Sakura said, let's Hinata? Sakura realized that the girl was clutching her head in pain. What's wrong? Grimacing, Hinata looked up. My head. Okay, Sakura said, just lay down. I'll get you an aspirin. Meanwhile, Puck ran across the hills like a rapidash. How could a Pokemon with such short legs run so fast? Sasuke thought in amazement. Puck, what are you doing? Naruto shouted, huffing and puffing as he ran. There's nothing to be afraid of. Fur. The Pokemon hissed back, not slowing down a bit. Hey! Enough of this, Sasuke shouted, taking out a Pokeball. Akodo, go! He tossed the ball so that it landed a few feet ahead of the furret, and his Shinx appeared in a flash. Puck found himself screeching to a halt, cut off. Ret? Leer him into submission, Sasuke ordered. Shinx, Akodo complied, eyes glowing red. As Sakura predicted, Akodo's slashed eye healed well, but even with the help of the Poke Center, it was still scarred. To Puck, however, this made his leer all the more intimidating. For it, Puck whined, whimpering as Akodo advanced on him. Flawless, Sasuke said smugly, turning to Naruto. Now, just take out his Pokeball and... What are you doing attacking my Pokemon? Naruto shouted, grabbing Sasuke by the front of his shirt. Call him off. Let go, you maniac, Sasuke hissed. Seeing his master being threatened, Akodo forgot about the furret and rushed over to save him. Which was all Puck needed to make a break for it. No, Sasuke shouted, pointing. He's getting away. Stop him. Akodo whipped around and rushed to obey, but Bayashi did, too. Both Pokemon crashed into Puck at the same time. Only for the furret to explode in a puff of smoke, causing the Bayashi and Akodo to hit each other instead. Shinx. The two started hissing and growling at each other in their confusion. What just happened? Naruto asked, dumbfounded. He pulled out his Pokédex. Substitute, it chimed. Using a portion of its energy, a Pokemon creates a semi-real clone of itself and disappears at the same time, moving to a nearby location. This clone can attack and act on its own, but is notably weaker than the original. Substitute? Naruto said, looking at Sasuke in confusion. But how did Puck learn that? Probably from the TM, dummy, his friend replied. And shouldn't you be asking where Puck is now, instead of just standing around? Eevee, Bayashi cried, wagging his tail tauntingly. Shinx. Akodo responded by biting down on his foot. Eevee. The two started brawling. Hey, knock it off, Sasuke ordered, stepping in between his two now fighting Pokemon. He pulled Akodo away and started scolding him for biting Bayashi, who was smugly smiling behind his owner's back. Naruto spotted his furret trying to slip away. Puck, stop it, he yelled, pulling out his Pokeball. However, before his trainer could try returning him, Puck stuck out his tongue and ran. No you don't, Sasuke said, tossing Akodo. Get him. Shinx, the electric type hissed, building up a charge as he flew at the furret. The Shinx landed on Puck, letting out a spark attack. But once again, it exploded in a puff of smoke. Again? Naruto said in exasperation. This subject seems to exhibit an unusual knack for the substitute technique, his Pokédex explained. Meanwhile. There, Sakura said, as Hinata carefully drank from her canteen, feeling better? Yes, Hinata said slowly, screwing the canteen's lid back on. My head doesn't hurt at all anymore. Really? The pink-haired girl asked skeptically, but you just took the medicine. It takes at least 20 minutes to take effect. And you were having a pretty bad migraine. Hinata nodded her head quickly. I'm doing fine, really. My head's not bothering me at all. It was stupid of me to even mention it in the first place. She started fiddling her fingers together. Sakura narrowed her eyes shrewdly. Are you telling me this because you don't want me to tell Naruto and Sasuke? No. The shy girl responded too quickly, putting her hands behind her back. Really, I feel fine, but there's no reason to mention it to them now, anyway. No need to worry them. Aha, Sakura said triumphantly, so, that's is it. Hinata waved her hands desperately. I really feel better. Please, don't make a scene. I'm begging you, Sakura. Sakura looked down at Waterlily, as if asking for her advice. Hinata, after last night with the night terror, and now with the crazy headache, I can't just ignore it. You should really take care of this now, before it turns serious. Hinata looked down, ashamed to be acting this way. Sakura was right. But, she didn't want Sasuke or Naruto to think she was fragile or weak. Especially not Naruto. Sighing, Sakura looked at her friend. Her face could not be more miserable. Fine. I'll make you a deal. When we get to Teal Town, you go see a doctor and I'll take the boys out in the meanwhile. If the doc says it's nothing, I'll keep it secret. Okay? Hinata smiled softly. Thank you. Now, Sakura said with a grin, let's go find out what the boys are up to. Meanwhile, what the boys were up to at that exact moment. Houndoom it, not again. Sasuke screamed as another puck vanished in a puff of smoke. They had nearly caught the rascal 8 times now, and he just used substitute to get away each time. It was so frustrating that Bayoshi and Akoto had nearly come to blows several times. Luckily, Sasuke had kept the two from killing each other. You know, he said bitterly, looking at Naruto, this would be a lot easier if you would send out Kata. No way. Naruto shook his head wildly. Puck's scared enough as is. In fact, I bet we'd catch him a lot sooner if you'd just call your Pokemon back. Don't be a fool, Sasuke snapped grumpily. The two were about to start fighting again when Akoto cried out, having caught Puck's scent and was now giving chase. Good boy, Sasuke said proudly. He turned to the blonde. Call him back before we lose sight of him. As the Furret nimbly dodged each of Naruto's attempts at calling him back into his Pokeball, the two trainers didn't notice Akoto smirking at Bayoshi and rubbing next to Sasuke when his master praised him. Oh, give me that, Sasuke shouted, so fed up with Naruto's poor aim that he grabbed the ball and tried returning the Pokemon himself. This time, Puck actually turned around and started laughing as Sasuke missed. Dude, you suck, Naruto smirked. The black-haired boy rounded angrily at the blonde. Say that again. Puck watched as the two started wrestling on the ground, with Bayoshi and Akoto hissing on the sidelines. Fur, he laughed, not noticing someone coming up from behind. And what do we have here? A girl's voice asked, grabbing him by the scruff and lifting the Furret up. Puck thrashed about wildly, then after that was unsuccessful, he turned around. Holding him up was Sakura, who was looking at Puck and then Sasuke and Naruto with something between amusement and disgust. Behind her, Hinata watched the boys fight timidly. Shouldn't we do something? I suppose, Sakura sighed. However, Puck smiled at her mischievously and then closed his eyes and stared, concentrating hard. Sakura raised an eyebrow as the Furret seemed to be trying something, only to quit, panting and sputtering as if he had run a mile. Rolling her eyes, Sakura cleared her throat loudly. Are you two done fighting, or am I going to have to let this Furret go so you can continue? She asked calmly when the boys looked up at her. How did you catch him? Sasuke asked in amazement as Sakura walked over to them, Waterlily in one hand and Puck in the other, looking defeated. There's no way, Naruto said, scrambling up. It must be a trick, a substitute again. Substitute? Sakura asked. Is that what he was trying to do earlier? Yeah, Sasuke agreed. Quick, flick it. Before Sakura could stop him, Naruto reached over and flicked Puck on the nose, who responded by biting Naruto's finger. Ouch, he cried, pulling back. Yep, he's real. But how did you catch him? Because you're an idiot, Sakura said coldly. If you hadn't been so busy fighting with Sasuke over petty things, you would have realized that Puck was getting too tired to use substitute. Does he really know that move, or is Naruto being a dummy again, Sasuke? Yes, that makes sense, Sasuke said. And no, Naruto's not making it up. That's Puck's new attack. That will be useful, Sakura mused. Now, on to business, Naruto said strictly, taking Puck away from Sakura and setting him down angrily. Why did you go crazy and run away like that? Puck looked up at Naruto angrily for a few seconds. Then he looked down, as if ashamed. The little guy's eyes looked watery. Puck? Naruto whimpered, voice cracking. He got down to his forehead's eye level. Puck, what's wrong? Maybe the after effects of the TM made him hurt again? Sasuke suggested. No, Sakura said firmly. Dr. Duran wouldn't have released him unless the TM's effects were over. She was about to say more when she noticed Hinata was rubbing her temple. Hinata, are you okay? She whispered, coming in close. Much to her surprise, the other girl pushed her softly away and took a step forward. Naruto? I think I know what's wrong. Yes? Hinata squeaked when she realized all eyes were on her. But, that didn't stop her. I don't know why, she began, but for some reason, I'm sure that Puck heard you from his Pokeball when you were talking about all the TMs you could use. I think that really scared him. Suddenly, Sasuke slapped his forehead. Of course. Remember, what Dr. Duran said. Puck's afraid of needles. He is? Naruto asked in astonishment. Why didn't I know about this? Sasuke winced, he forgot to tell Naruto about Puck's newfound phobia in his rush to catch the bus. However, Naruto was no longer paying any attention to him. Oh Puck, I'm so sorry, he cried, hugging his poor Pokemon. I was so excited I didn't even think about your feelings. I'm such a bad trainer. The two cried and hugged for a few minutes before calming down. Do you forgive me? Naruto asked, eyes puffy. The furret looked at him for a few moments before licking a tear of his cheek. Oh, come here you, Naruto laughed, hugging his Pokemon some more. Sasuke took as much of the lovey-dovey stuff before clapping his hands for attention. Okay, now that I'm about ready to puke, let's change subject to something more pressing. What about Teal Town? We still need to get there, remember? What about it? Sakura asked, pointing behind him. Sasuke followed her finger and turned around. There was Teal Town, less than a mile away. We were nearly there when the driver kicked us off, remember, dum-dum? Naruto asked smugly. Right, Sasuke replied. Well then, let's get going. Everyone ready? He looked around, listing off people. Sakura. Water Lily. Hinata. Idiot. Idiot's Pokemon. Why you? Naruto growled. Hey, Sasuke said, ignoring Naruto's death threats, where's Bayoshi and Akoto? As if to answer him, the two suddenly rolled right into the middle of the group, kicking and hissing and fighting like there was no tomorrow. What's wrong with you two? Sasuke shouted. Pokemon Konoha. Chapter 9. Man, how long are we gonna have to sit here? A boy with messy, black hair whined loudly, stretching and leaning back. As long as it takes, his female companion snapped, glaring at him with contempt, so shut up and stop your belly aching or I swear. Enough, the third member of the group said firmly. His face was covered with bandages save for his left eye. All three of them had been watching the main road into Teal Town from their roost atop a building for 2 days now, waiting for their mark to arrive. They wore outfits with uniform scarves and pants that had a distinctive snakeskin pattern to them, as well as jackets with an S stylized to resemble a snake on the right shoulder. The boy with his face covered, Dosu, had on a heavy poncho-like coat and very long sleeves that made him look bulkier than he really was. The other boy, Zaku, looked like he was going to a rock concert, with his sleeves and pants torn, and a Bon Jovi t-shirt on. The girl, Kin, looked much more normal than her male companions, dressed efficiently, save for her long black hair, which nearly touched the ground. Zaku and Kin glared at one another for a few moments before turning and sitting down on opposite sides of the roof. Good, Dosu said, nodding. Now, let's review, okay? Oh, come on. Kin and Zaku protested, we've been over this before. Ignoring his partner's groans of exasperation, he pulled out a picture of a pink-haired girl. This girl, Sakura Haruno, is our target, Dosu explained. According to Team Snake Intel, she's got a couple of super rare eggs on her hands. Boss Orochimaru wants them, so we're gonna steal them. And once we do, Zaku added eagerly, we'll get a promotion. Quiet, Dosu ordered. Our info says the girl's headed this way with some friends, so when she shows up, all we got to do is grab her, easy as pie. After a pause, the boy's face turned serious. Remember, the boss himself gave us this job, and if we mess up, we're out of Team Snake. We're the youngest team to be given field work on our own, so we've got a lot of competition from the older members, remember? Once we complete this mission, we'll prove to them all that the Sound Trio's the best. And then we'll finally get the respect we deserve, Kin said excitedly. Yeah. All three cheered, go, Sound Trio. And then all three's stomachs growled. But first, let's have lunch, Zaku said, pulling out a paper bucket of food. It's 25% off a dozen legs and thighs at Kumo Fried Chicken today, and I got extra crispy. Yeah. Wasting no time, the trio set up and started to eat. Little did they realize that while the three of them were stuffing their faces, no one was doing lookout duty. Meanwhile. Oh, Sakura said, wrapping her arms around herself. What is it, Sakura? Naruto asked, tilting his head. You know that feeling you get when someone's watching you? Sakura explained. Well, it's kinda like that, only, it's like someone should have been watching us, and wasn't. How do you even feel that? The boy asked, tilting his head. Oh, never mind, it was probably nothing, Sakura mused. Maybe you're just excited about finally getting to Teal Town? Hinata suggested. You'll be getting that special egg from the professor at the Pokemon Academy soon, after all. Yeah, I forgot about that. Sakura grinned, brightening up quickly. So, what's the Pokemon in the egg? Naruto asked, leaning in. I thought I told you that Professor Umino couldn't figure that out, Sakura said in disbelief. Weren't you paying attention? Of course not. Naruto responded plainly, if I paid attention every time you talked, I'd spend the whole day listening and get nothing done. What does that mean? Sakura hissed, grabbing Naruto by the front of his shirt. It means you're a blabber, Naruto began. Then he stopped mid-sentence. Wait, did you said Professor Umino? As in, Iruka Umino? Yes, Sakura said coldly, as in Iruka Umino. He's the head professor at the academy. You would have known that if you had been paying attention, you idiot. All right. Naruto cheered, jumping out of Sakura's grasp. What's with you? Sakura asked in disbelief. Iruka used to teach at Pokemon school in our old town. He was Naruto's favorite teacher, Sasuke explained as Naruto continued dancing. Then Naruto's dad got him a job as a professor at Teal Town Academy, so he had to move away. Smiling, Sasuke added, the baby spent the whole school semester crying. That's 'cause the new teacher kept hitting my knuckles with a yardstick. The blonde boy protested. Anyway, let's get to the academy and say hello. Teal Town Academy also doubles as the city's gym, Sasuke pointed out, so we can get everything done at once. However, as the two boys started walking, Sakura held them back. Hold it. We're not going just yet. Both boys looked at each other. We're not? Sakura shook her head. Hinata and I have stuff to do. She glanced at the other girl meaningfully, slightly nodding. However, Hinata didn't notice. We do? Yes, we do, Sakura said quickly, rushing over to Hinata's side. We have to get those things we talked about, remember? She put on a forced smile that told Hinata to play along. Oh, right, now I remember, the dark-haired girl stammered oddly as Sakura pulled her aside. 1 second, she told the boys, who looked genuinely confused. What's going on? Hinata asked. Remember what we talked about earlier? Sakura responded. You promised to see a doctor as soon as we got to Teal Town. Well, we're here. I already found a doctor that does checkups for Pokemon trainers for free. She held out her Pokénav, which showed a map of Teal Town and a list of doctors' offices. One of them was highlighted. Made the appointment already, the pink-haired girl added as Hinata looked reluctant, so don't try and slip out of it. But what about Sasuke and Naruto? Hinata asked, stealing a glance at them. You said you'd distract them while I went to the doctors on my own. Change of plans, Sakura explained. I decided that I need to make sure you don't try and slip out of going while I'm not looking. Don't pretend that you wouldn't. As for the boys, we'll just tell them we're going shopping and give them the slip. As Hinata struggled to think of a retort, Naruto stepped over and butted in. So, what's going on again? Hinata and I need to go shopping, Sakura said quickly, before Hinata could protest. No way, Naruto whined, crossing his arms, "I'm not gonna waste my time waiting around in a store while you two shop around." "You and Sasuke aren't coming," Sakura pointed out, glaring slightly, "so you can stop whining." At this, Naruto tilted his head. "Really? What's the big deal? Don't you want our company?" The pink-haired girl rolled her eyes. "Wasn't he just complaining about coming with them in the first place? We have to get, girl stuff," Hinata said quickly. "Yeah, that," Sakura agreed, nodding. Really private girl stuff." "Girl stuff? Why do you need to get that alone?" Naruto started to ask, but much to his surprise, Sasuke's hand clamped over his mouth. "We understand," he said quickly. "You go do that, and we'll meet up at the Poke Center in an hour." He dragged Naruto away before the blonde could protest. "What was that about?" Naruto finally got to ask when the girls were out of sight. "You'll learn when you're older," Sasuke grunted, blushing slightly. "Now let's go, and don't bring this up ever again." Then he started muttering something about how he thought Sakura was being very moody, but Naruto decided not to ask. Meanwhile, "This sucks." Zaku groaned, leaning over the roof's railing, his binoculars swinging from his neck. "We've been at this for hours. Can't we do this in shifts, so that only one of us has to be on lookout duty?" "Last time we tried that, we caught you sleeping on the job," Kin pointed out coldly. She dutifully scanned the city for their target. "Besides, how hard can it be to find a pink-haired girl? Oh. Would you look at that? Did you find Haruno?" Dosu cried, turning his telescope. Having one eye meant binoculars were all but useless to him, to look where she was looking. "No, even better," Kin cried excitedly. Dosu's telescope caught sight of what his female partner was so happy about. Two boys, one bright and fair and the other dark and brooding, were walking down the street. "You've got to be kidding me." "Rrr," Kin growled, focusing her binoculars to get a closer look. "They're like yin and yang, a perfect pair. Bright and sweet and troubled but cute. Ooh, I want them both." "Kin, you boy crazy lunatic," Zaku said, smacking her on the head, causing the girl to drop her binoculars in surprise. "You got us all worked up over." He had a hard time finishing his sentence as Kin wrapped her fingers around his throat. "You made me drop my binoculars, you idiot," she hissed, throttling her poor partner. "How am I supposed to spy on boys now?" "So that's why you kept checking out the public pool," Zaku gasped, trying to push the madwoman off him. "You traitor." "Idiots," Dosu sighed, ignoring the two. However, not too far away from the boys Kin went goo-goo over. He spotted something that made his heart leap for joy. Two girls, one dark-haired, and the other pink. "There she is." The trio's leader shouted, pointing with joy, "I found her." "Where?" Both Kin and Zaku stopped fighting and started looking at where Dosu pointed, fighting over Zaku's binoculars. "Ooh, that's her all right." Zaku cheered, glad they were finally done with lookout duty. "Let's nab her." "Wait." Dosu ordered, still watching the girls. As they entered a building, he growled. "Darn it all, she's with someone to start with, and now the girl's in a building with a bunch of other trainers. We can't nab her in public like this." "Great," Zaku sighed, leaning back onto the railing. "So, any ideas what to do?" Kin hummed thoughtfully, homing her goggles in on the Pokemon in the Haruno girl's arms. She smiled maliciously, pulling a Pokeball from her belt. Its top was made of steel and engraved with a musical note. "I think I've got a solution." 00000. "Hinata Hyuga, here for the 2:30, Sakura said, talking to the receptionist. Hinata sat in the waiting room nervously, trying to calm herself down. Really, she had nothing to be afraid of. "The doctor will see you in a moment," Sakura explained, sitting down and setting Waterlily in a free seat next to her. Smiling, Sakura took out a magazine called The Coordinator Essential. On the front, it showed a very pretty red-haired woman whose face Hinata vaguely recognized. She wasn't very interested in celebrities, along with a silver ninetails. A caption underneath the two said something about a special Pokemon contest being hosted in Winterborn City. I didn't know Sakura was into Pokemon coordination, Hinata thought. Much to both girls' surprise, Waterlily jumped up and looked around excitedly. "What?" "Tsu," Waterlily said, her ears twitching. The Pokemon smiled, and leapt outside, giggling. "Waterlily," Sakura shouted, jumping after her, "get back here." "Sakura?" Hinata began but was cut off when the receptionist said that the doctor would see her now. Deciding that Sakura would be mad if she skipped her appointment, Hinata nodded and went into the office. After all, Sakura was only going to grab Water Lily and come back inside. What harm could Sakura get herself into? Outside, at that moment, Sakura looked around, but she couldn't see her baby anywhere. "Where are you?" Sakura shouted desperately. Azuzuzuz. Water Lily's giggling from above drew Sakura's attention. There her Azurill was, being held up in the sky by a cute, red and white round-bodied Pokémon with a ribbon-like tail. As the wind blew, the Pokémon chimed like a bell. "A Chimecho?" Sakura said, pulling out her Pokédex. It dinged to life. Chimecho, the wind chime Pokémon. Chimecho has a hollow body, inside which its cries can echo, allowing it to create 7 different chimes. These notes can be utilized as attacks, causing a range of effects, from pleasant tones that cause relaxation and promote natural healing, to shockwaves of ultrasonic blasts. As the Chimecho tickled Water Lily with its tail, Sakura laughed. "Well, looks like you made a friend," she observed, realized that her Azurill's sensitive ears must have heard the Chimecho's cries inside the doctor's office. "So, think you can put her down now, Chimecho?" "Chicho." Instead of listening, the floating Pokémon laughed and started flying away. "Hey! Get back here," Sakura shouted, running after the two. As the girl chased the two down, a figure not too far off chuckled wickedly. "Good job, Decibel," Kin whispered into a microphone, "keep leading on." The girl pulled out her cell phone and hit the speed dial. "Zaku, she's headed your way, are you two ready?" "Change of plans," Zaku responded from his end, "you're going to have to take the girl yourself." "What?" Kin hissed angrily, "that wasn't part of the plan." "We're taking care of something ourselves," Zaku retorted. Then he tauntingly added, "Don't tell me you don't think you can take one girl who's just a beginner on your own?" Swearing loudly, Kin's eyes became dangerous. "Fine, I'll take care of this myself," she shouted, "I don't need you or Dosu anyway." Yeah, whatever," Zaku sighed, "just try not to mess this up." He hung up. Growling, the girl started after her quarry. "Just you wait, Haruno. When I'm through with you, you'll wish you never even started your journey." Just a little earlier, Dosu and Zaku waited patiently on a bus stop bench. Kin's Chimecho was going to lead the Haruno girl into an abandoned factory, where no one could possibly save her, and then they'd all gang up and take her out quick. Easy enough, right? "Man, I'm starving," Zaku sighed, rubbing his growling stomach. He looked around and spotted a hot dog stand. "I'm gonna get me a dog, you want one?" "We just ate," Dosu pointed out. However, as Zaku got in line, the bandaged boy added, "Make mine with no ketchup." What could they say? They were growing, teenage boys, after all. As Zaku stood in line, his eyes widened when he noticed boys in front of him. It was the two Kin was drooling over. "I still don't see why we can't just go to the academy and say hello to Iruka ourselves," Sasuke, the blonde said, ordering 2 hot dogs. "Because, Naruto," the one called Sasuke explained slowly, "the girls aren't with us right now, and they'd probably take it offensively if we left them behind. As much as you want to see your old teacher, do you really want to have Sakura mad at you?" Zaku nearly gagged when he realized the two were friends with the team's target. They were supposed to attack her where no one would be able to save her. "I don't see why she'd be mad," Naruto said plainly. The two paid for their food and walked a little ways off. Zaku ordered his food, not paying attention as he tried to continue eavesdropping. "Believe me, she'd be mad," Sasuke retorted in between bites, shuddering involuntarily. "This week, she and Hinata are going to be mad about everything we do. You've been saying that ever since you found out they went shopping for girl stuff. What's with you?" Naruto asked, talking with his mouth full. The two walked off, and Zaku ran over to Dosu. "Where's my hot dog?" Dosu began. "We got a problem," Zaku yelped. He pointed at the two boys. "Those two are the Sakura girl's friends." "Calm down," Dosu ordered, taking a look at the trio's new foes. Offhandedly, he noted that they were the two boys Kin was ogling. "So the Haruno girl has some friends, what's the big deal? How can we ambush her with her boyfriends nearby?" Zaku moaned. "Besides, the blonde knows the professor at the Pokemon Academy, he could be trouble." Growling, Dosu rubbed his chin. "You have a point there. They could be problematic, not to mention, Haruno could have easily given one or both of the eggs to them." He looked at the two again, and this time, he noticed that the dark-haired boy was carrying a silver-white Eevee in his arms, feeding it pieces of his hot dog. Well, would you look at that, Dosu said with a grin, not every day you see a winter coat Eevee. Zaku looked around to get a view of what his partner was talking about. When he did, he whistled. Doesn't the boss have a thing for white Pokemon? He does, Dosu responded slyly. Okay, new plan, you tell Kin to take the Sakura girl alone, as for you and me, we'll challenge those boys on our own, the discretion should let Kin complete her mission. If they have the eggs, we steal them, if not, we can still nab that Eevee for the boss. And, if in the odd case that they beat us, we only challenge them to a friendly match, and no one's the wiser. Perfect. Zaku smiled, pulling out his phone as it rang. Oh, hi Kin. You know, I got something I need to tell you anyway. 0000. Oh, come on, Sasuke, Naruto whined, this is boring. If we have to wait for the girls, at least we can do something fun, not just walk around doing nothing. If you have a better idea, I'm all ears, Sasuke said calmly. Let me think, Naruto responded, rubbing his chin and acting stupid. I know. He suddenly cried dramatically, snapping his fingers, we can knit sweaters, or, the boy added, his voice deadpan serious, we could do something useful like have a Pokemon battle. Your attitude aside, that's not a bad idea, Sasuke agreed. But we've already battled 4 times, I'm tired of beating you. Hey, Naruto shouted indigently, I've won plenty of times. Before the two could argue, someone from behind them spoke. Perhaps we could help you there, strangers. Naruto and Sasuke turned around. 2 boys, one black-haired and the other with his face covered in bandages, stood smiling. My name's Dosu, the bandage-faced one said, and this is Zaku. Not to be rude, but did you say you wanted to have a Pokemon battle? Because we were looking for someone to battle with ourselves. Yeah, the other boy said, nodding his head a bit too eagerly. Dosu elbowed him. Cool, Naruto said, smiling. We accept your challenge. The 2 of us can take. Hold on there, we want to do 2 separate battles. No double teaming, Dosu explained. Deal? Good, Sasuke agreed, nodding. I want to test my strength anyway. So do I, Dosu whispered quietly, grinning behind his mask. He cleared his throat and spoke loudly. So, how about I take you, he pointed to Sasuke, and Zaku takes you, he pointed at Naruto, 2 on 2 each. He asked pleasantly. Awesome. Naruto cheered, tossing his Pokeball in the air. Let's go kata. Suckers, Dosu laughed softly, pulling his ball out. You have no idea what you're up against. 0000. So, you're having some nasty migraines? The doctor asked, smiling brightly at the girl sitting on the examining table. I had one, Hinata said insistently, twiddling her fingers, and a night terror the night before. The doctor mused. Well, in all likelihood, you're just experiencing the, He paused, looking for the right words to use. Meanwhile, Hinata was looking at him questioningly. You're, going through, the doctor spoke carefully. Well, every girl has a time in their life when, they go through a change, and well. I not know about puberty, the girl said, blushing and looking down. Oh, good, the doctor sighed, wiping his brow. Last time I tried to explain was the change was to a girl, I got sued by her father. But what does that have to do with my headaches? Well, sometimes girls going through the change will get migraines unexpectedly, and as for the night terrors, those can be a result of the emotional and chemical change your body is going through. So, Hinata said slowly, there's nothing wrong with me? Nope. In fact, you could say that it's all just a sign that you're a healthy, growing girl. Can I get that in writing? Hinata asked quickly, thinking of how Sakura wouldn't believe her. 0000. I said get back here. The Chimecho carried Waterlily off over a chain-linked fence. Oh, blast it all, Sakura shouted. They were now flying into an abandoned building. She looked around, and spotted a gate. Running over, Sakura was surprised to find that it had been left open. However, she didn't waste any time thinking about it, instead running after Waterlily and the Chimecho. Where are you? The pink-haired girl hissed, walking through the ruined building. Sighing, she pulled out a Pokeball. Jane, help me out. The Mankey materialized and looked around questioningly. A Chimecho took Water Lily, and I need your help getting her back, Sakura explained. Can you sniff them out? Ki? The fighting type scratched her head for a moment before realizing that Sakura was talking about her pig-like nose. Kiki Manky, she snapped indignantly, shaking her paws angrily. Okay, I get it, Sakura said, holding her hands, you don't like people talking about your nose. Ki. Jane growled, crossing her arms. Before the two could come up with something else to do, a deep, resounding tone rang out. What? Boom. Both Sakura and Jane fell to their knees at the sound of the second tone, which was powerful enough to cause dust to rise up around them. Boom. The sound was like a giant bell, causing great vibrations to shake room. Her ears still ringing, Sakura brought herself up on her hands and knees. Standing before her was a girl with long dark hair, the Chimecho from earlier floating about gleefully. In the girl's hands, Sakura spotted Water Lily, who was unconscious. Hi, the girl grinned cheerfully, my name's Kin, and I'm here on official Team Snake business. Team Snake? Sakura whispered, still confused and disorientated. What did you do to Water Lily? Don't worry, I just used a sedative on her, Kin said, her smile turning nasty. Now, it seems that you've got some eggs that don't belong to you, Kin explained, continuing her cheery talk. So, you can either hand them over quietly and walk away with your little bundle of blue, or, I can have Decibel, she pointed at her Chimecho, smash you into the wall and just take them by force. Your choice. You're crazy, Sakura gasped. I don't know what you're even talking about, now give me back my Azurill. The dark-haired girl sighed. I gave you fair warning. She glanced at her Chimecho. Confusion. Cho. The psychic type glowed a sinister blue, and Sakura felt herself being lifted into the air. The girl struggled, but it was like unseen chains were binding her, pulling her limbs taut. Still not going to talk? Kin asked, grinning sadistically. I don't know what you're talking about. Put me down and give me back Water Lily, Sakura shouted, pulling her arms and legs in vain. Have it your way, Kin shrugged. Decibel, do it. The Chimecho nodded, her eyes flashing blue. Sakura felt herself being pulled back for the slam. Manky. Out from behind them, a screaming ball of fur flew at them. Kin just started to turn around at the sound when a furious kick slammed into her face. RRGGH. As the girl fell over, Jane wasted no time in flying at Decibel, grabbing onto the Pokémon and slamming her mighty fists into the Chimecho as she tried to stay aloft. Sakura felt the psychic hold on her dissipate, and she fell to the floor, freed. Good job, Jane, she cried, getting up. You filthy little monster. Kin staggered up, holding her bruised face. I'll make you pay for that. Decibel, astonished that beast off you. The Manky and Chimecho were still struggling in the air, breathing deep. Decibel uttered a horrid series of cries, unleashing a torrent of red sound waves that blasted Jane off of her. It'll take more than that, Sakura shouted confidently. You fool, Kin snapped back. It's psychic versus fighting. I've already won. We'll just see about that, Jane, attack. Meanwhile, Zaku looked at the little Pokémon before him. It looked like a blue and black jackal pup standing on two legs. Hey Dosu, he whispered, what is that thing? Do I have anything strong against it? Hey! Not cheats, Naruto shouted, pointing accusingly. Zaku looked helplessly at Dosu, who just shrugged. Sighing, Zaku pulled a Pokéball from his belt. Whatever, Boombox, I choose you. Zaku tossed the ball, and it released a Pokémon that looked like a large Pokéball. Torb, it cried, spinning like a top for a few seconds. What's that? Naruto asked, pulling out his Pokédex. You two-faced cheater, Zaku shouted, pointing a finger accusingly, you said no cheats. Shove it, the blonde shouted back. I just want to figure out what that thing is. Voltorb, the ball Pokémon, his Pokédex dinged pleasantly. Because they first appeared in Pokéball factories, many scientists assume that there is a connection between Voltorb and Pokéball production. Voltorb are well known for storing up large amounts of unstable power, and can explode with little to no provocation. A bomb-type Pokémon? Naruto asked as he stowed his Pokédex away, confused. Never heard of that one before. Whatever, Kata and I are still gonna whip your hides. You keep dreaming, you cheating cheater, you, Zaku shouted. Sasuke and Dosu watched as the two hurled insults back and forth for a few seconds before realizing that they had a match of their own to fight. "Octave, out," the bandage-covered boy said calmly. A flash of light, and a black and red, violin-shaped cricket-like Pokemon appeared. It rubbed its scythe-like limbs together, playing a short melody. A cricketune, Sasuke mused, pulling out his Pokédex. Cricketune, the cricket Pokemon, it chimed. Cricketune all have slightly different cries, which can convey a spectrum of emotions. Musicians are known to raise cricketune for their musical talent. "So, you're using a bug type?" Sasuke asked, grabbing a Pokéball and smiling. "I've got just the thing for you. Togashi, you're up." Sasuke's Charmander appeared, growling playfully at his opponent. "Darn, I was hoping to test the Eevee's strength," Dosu sighed quietly before clearing his throat and speaking louder. "Very well, begin." Sasuke wasted no time taking the initiative. "Togashi, and this quickly with Ember." "Char char." Togashi grabbed his tail and blew on the flame, shooting out several small fiery darts. Dosu, however, just chuckled. "Octave, swords dance." The bug type lunged forward, spinning horizontally as it did so, deflecting Togashi's Ember attack. "Mander?" "Good," Dosu smiled as Octave closed in on the Charmander. "Now, use Fury Cutter." The cricketune came out of his spin with his scythe extended and ready. Moving faster than Sasuke thought possible, Octave slashed Togashi across the stomach, using the momentum from his rapid spinning. "Togashi," Sasuke shouted as his Pokemon went sprawling. "Give him another Fury Cutter," Dosu ordered, glancing over at Zaku and Naruto's battle. "Boombox, keep up the attack." Zaku ordered. "Sonic Boom away." "Voltorb." The Voltorb drew in energy, sparking violently, and unleashed a destructive wave of sound. It ripped forth like a scythe, mowing down everything in its path. "Kata, look out," Naruto shouted. "Riolu," Kata replied, jumping above the blast gracefully. The attack continued on until it hit a trash can at a restaurant across the street of the alley the boys had chosen as their battleground. Before Naruto could shout an apology to the restaurant's owner, the Voltorb sent a second sonic boom at Kata. "Rio." The fighting Pokemon twisted into the air and evaded the attack, only to be faced with yet another as he landed unbalanced. This time, the attack hit Kata square in the chest. "Rio." The Riolu skid back a few feet, winded. "Try and regain your footing, Kata." Naruto cheered. "He can't keep this up." Only for his Pokemon be hit by a second sound wave. "Lu." This time, he was sent to the ground. "Kata. You need to get up," Naruto cried desperately. "Boombox, finish off your prey," Zaku said deviously. This was just too easy. Meanwhile, back at the abandoned factory. "Jane, don't stop moving," Sakura ordered, grimacing desperately. "You can't let that thing's psychic powers grab you." "Keep dodging, girly," Kin laughed, "it won't get you anywhere." "Chime, chime, chime," Decibel laughed, her confusion attacks only barely missing the pig monkey as she dipped and dodged. Her attack wouldn't work unless she could get a good grip on her foe, which was proving very difficult. "Oh, screw the Mankey," Kin shouted, losing her patience, use confusion to throw stuff at it. "Chime echo," Decibel chimed, eyes glowing. A large, old pipe floated into the air, outlined with blue psychic energy. "Chime echo." With a surge, Decibel hurled it at Jane. "Spilt that pipe with karate chop," Sakura shouted. Nodding, Jane leapt up at the flying boulder. "Man ki." Giving a great ki shout, she struck the pipe at its center. For a moment, it seemed to do nothing, then, the pipe shattered in two. And Jane was flying right at Decibel. "Oh no," Kin gasped. "Oh yes," Sakura cried, fist pumping the air. "Now Jane, finish it with seismic toss." "Ki." Jane grabbed hold of the psychic type, intending on pile driving Decibel into the floor. However, at the last second, Decibel's ribbon-like tail whipped around Jane's legs, catching her in a surprise bind. "Ki?" The chime echo spun in the air, flinging her foe into the wall with a shout. "Echo." Perfect use of rap, Decibel Kin snickered. "Now finish this with confusion." "Chime echo," her Pokemon whispered, eyes glowing. Jane's prone form glowed blue slightly, lifting into the air. With a shout, Hang slammed her into a wall, then into the floor, and into another wall. Jane, Sakura cried, watching helplessly as her Mankey was beaten senseless. She turned to see the Team Snake girl laughing manically. Ha ha ha. You stupid, trashy little amateur, Kin cried with sadistic delight. You really thought you could beat me? Well, now you're gonna lose everything, and there is no one who can save. 8 Su Ril. Without warning, a blast of water struck the girl in the side of the head with such force that she was sent flying into her Chimecho. Not missing a beat, Sakura ran and caught her now freed Mankey. Jane, Sakura whispered, pulling out her Pokeball and returning her, I'm so sorry. At the same time, Kin and Decibel got up from the stunning attack. PHFF. PHFF, she spat, water still in her mouth, who dares to? Sue. Once again, a blast of water hit her in the face, this time right smack in her open mouth. Sakura turned to finally see her rescuer, standing up on a piece of rubble. Water Lily glared down the girl who dared to attack her trainer. Water Lily! Sakura screamed, jumping up. She had been so preoccupied fighting Kin, she forgot about her beloved Azurill. Shame crept through her as she realized this. Who dares? Kin dramatically began again, only to get yet another blast of water to the face that knocked her down. And once again, Kin got up, this time shielding her face. Stop that. Tsu Tsu Azu, Water Lily declared, jumping down in between Sakura and her foe. You think you can take me? Kin laughed, fine. This time, you won't have the element of surprise. Sue. The Azurill interjected, hitting her with a water gun again. You suck, you know that, right? Sakura taunted. Kaimekaimekamechime, Decibel laughed. Ignoring her traitorous Pokemon, Kin glared at the pesky little Azurill. Oh, screw it, just get her. Meanwhile. Kata. You need to get up, Naruto cried desperately. Boombox, finish off your prey, Zaku said deviously. This was just too easy. Torb, Boombox responded, drawing in energy for an extra powerful sonic boom. Volume Torb. The Pokemon unleashed a shockwave twice as large as normal. Kata, Naruto shouted, pulling out his Pokeball to call the Riolu back. However, just then, Kata's eyes opened. Moving faster than Naruto thought possible, his Riolu spun up into a handstand like a break dancer and then flipped over the attack, ending up back on his feet. Dadabayo. Naruto cheered, uttering a nonsense cry his mother used sometimes. Rio, Kata moaned stiffly, cracking his neck. He looked like he was sore all over, but the glare he was giving Boombox held nothing but the will to win. Riolu, he uttered softly, taking a fighting stance and motioning for his foe to attack. You don't know when you're beat, Zaku hissed in annoyance. He looked at his Voltorb proudly. One more sonic boom out to do it. Voltorb. Boombox fired the attack. Only for Kata to nimbly jump over it. Fire again, Zaku shouted. Torb, Boombox complied, shooting another attack, which Kata ducked under. Again, and keep attacking, Zaku ordered, starting to sweat. Torb 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 Torb. No matter how many times Boombox fired, Kata just kept dodging. Awesome moves, Kata, Naruto said, grinning freely. Now, onto the attack. Lu, Kata agreed, nodding. He jumped over a sonic boom and started running at his foe. Don't let him get to you. Zaku warned. Boombox sent 4 more blasts at Kata. He jumped over the first, dodged the second, ducked under the third, but was left vulnerable to the last one. Yes, Zaku cried, relived that the persistent little Pokemon was going to get it at last. Riolu, Kata said calmly, drawing his arm back and then thrusting his paw out at the sonic boom. Blue aura flashed out of his open palm, dissipating Boombox's attack into naught. Zaku's mouth hanged open. What was that? Naruto finished, taking out his Pokédex. Force Palm, it chimed, an aura-based attack. The user manifests a large amount of life energy in his palm and unleashes it on a target at melee range. The wave of aura washing over the enemy not only does damage, but can interfere with their chi flow, causing disabling effects. That is so cool, Naruto giggled. He saw the dread on Zaku's face, and couldn't stop himself from gloating. Looks like you're in trouble. Quick Boombox, use Sonic Boom again, Zaku tried desperately. Voltorb. His Pokemon replied weakly. He has used too much energy already, he couldn't do another attack. Ready to win this, Kata? Naruto asked, smiling. Ryolu, Kata answered, once again taking a combat stance, calm and collected with his aura blazing around him. All right then, use force palm. His trainer commanded, lashing out his arm. Kata moved swiftly, dashing forward and leaping up. Ryolu. He brought both arms forward as he fell at his target, unleashing a rush of aura power as he struck home. Torb. No, Zaku cried, watching as his poor Voltorb convulsed in pain, sparking and flashing weakly. Kata sighed, landing softly, his form without flaw. Meanwhile, across the street. Professor Iruka Umino hummed pleasantly as he walked down the street. Today was his day off from work, and he planned to enjoy it. Ah, hello good sir, a street peddler called, leading a cart of fruits drawn by a Taurus. Can I interest you in buying some fruit? Vroom. Whoa, Iruka gasped as a sonic blast flew right past him. The blast continued onward, hitting the salesman's cart. Several of the fruit were sent flying. No, my fruits. The salesman shouted. He dashed to grab them while Iruka looked towards the alleyway the blast came from. Oh great, he growled. Some idiot kids were having a Pokemon battle in the middle of the city, with no concern as to what they were doing. Why does this always happen on my day off? Iruka asked himself, walking over. Hey, kids, don't you know you're not supposed to battle in public areas? He called. Pack this up and move somewhere. A second sonic boom blasted at Iruka, forcing him to dive out of the way. For the love of. Yet again, a sonic blast cut him off. This time, it was followed by several more. Get down, Iruka shouted, covering his head. Vroom. 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 Amazingly, the blasts avoided hitting no one, instead all slamming into the cart of fruit, which, indecently, was torn to shreds. My fruit! The poor salesman cried, falling to his knees. He sobbed softly. Taurus! Get those kids! The man shouted, pointing. However, the bull Pokemon hadn't moved a muscle when the sonic booms blew up the cart, and now it was more interested in eating the food on the ground. Stop that, you traitor! The fruit salesman screamed, trying to pull his merchandise away from the bull. Sighing, Iruka got back to his feet. Those kids are going to be in so much trouble when I get my hands on them. Meanwhile. Octave, don't let him get away, Dosu shouted. His Kricketune and Sasuke's Charmander were in close quarters now, and Octave had the clear advantage. The Kricketune slashed at Togashi, who managed to move back in time. However, he was huffing and puffing, clearly tired. Another Fury Cutter, Dosu said, grinning. Toon Crike, Octave responded, crossing his scythes and lasting both out. The two attacks hit, scratching each of the Charmander's arms. Try another Ember, Sasuke said, shocked. How could his fire type be losing to a little bug? Char char. Togashi whipped around and fired a spray of fiery darts. Again? Dosu laughed, rolling his eyes. Octave, swords dance. Once again, the Kricketune just spun around and whipped the fire attack away. You see? Dosu asked mockingly, fire is useless against him. Using the same attack over and over won't get you anywhere. Sasuke ground his teeth in anger. Shut up. I don't need your advice, Togashi, spread a smoke. Screen. Mander, the Pokemon nodded, whipping his tail back and forth as the flames started releasing a thick smoke. Don't let him hide in the smoke, Octave, Dosu commanded, waving his arm. The bug type spread his wings and hurtled forward, scythes outspread. Scratch him back. Sasuke responded. The Charmander raised his claws and growled. With a cry, he clashed with Octave, however, he was sent skidding back while the bug was only lightly scratched. Dosu started to laugh, but stopped when he saw Sasuke smiling, then it hit him. Octave's attack had caused Togashi to slide into the smoke, unseen. Think you're so smart? Dosu growled. Think again, swords dance the smoke away. The Kricketune nodded, spinning around as fast as he could. A wind was whipped up, blowing the obscuring smoke away. Much to Dosu's shock, Togashi was waiting, holding his tail up to use an ember attack. Fire, Sasuke shouted. Swords dance again, Dosu shouted, panicking. Togashi was fast, but Octave was faster. Once again, he spun around, scythes outstretched, blowing Togashi's fire away. Ha ha ha. Nice try, Dosu said confidently, but I win. Octave, use the strongest fury cutter you have. Crick E-tune, the bug type groaned oddly, teetering slightly. He raised a claw, and lunged. However, the attack didn't even come close. What? Dosu gasped. Now, it was Sasuke's turn to laugh. You made your creaky tune spin around so much so quickly that he's dizzy. Togashi, bite. Growling viciously, the Charmander leapt onto his foe, chomping down on Octave's shell. Fight him off, Dosu commanded. Octave slashed with his scythes, but at this range, attacking with them was awkward. Don't let up. Sasuke ordered, grinning wickedly, scratch. Bite. Heck, hit him with your tail. Togashi lashed out with all his limbs, attacking with feral fury. The two Pokémon wrestled, Togashi clearly the one with the advantage. Suddenly, the fire type got a lucky hit in, striking Octave in the eye with his burning tail. Screeching in pain, the creaky tune ripped away from the Charmander, flying blindly. Octave, return, Dosu said, pulling out his Pokéball and recalling the Pokémon. Well done, Togashi, Sasuke grinned smugly. Good job, Dosu said, bowing slightly, I didn't think you'd be able to beat my Octave. He pulled out a second Pokéball. This one, like his last, had a steel top with a note carved in it. Let's see how you do against Baritone. Hey! What's going on? Dosu, Zaku, Sasuke, and Naruto all jumped at the unexpected adult voice. They all turned to face the speaker. A man in a clean-cut outfit with a ponytail and scar across his face stood facing him, arms crossed. You're not supposed to be battling in a place like this. The man said sternly. Do you have any idea what kind of damage you caused? The man trailed off when he spotted Naruto. Naruto? Is that you? Professor Iruka, Naruto cried, jumping up and down. You're here. The boy ran up and hugged the man. Sasuke just smiled. Meanwhile, Dosu and Zaku had the exact opposite reaction. What's he doing here? Dosu hissed, glancing at his companion. I told you they were friends with him. Zaku responded in a panic. Naruto, I'm glad to see you too, but that doesn't excuse all the damages you've caused. Iruka explained, motioning to the desolated fruit cart, where the salesman was crying over his now ruined stock while his tourist just ate it indifferently. Oh, the blonde boy gasped bashfully. Well, his Pokémon did that. Naruto pointed an accusing finger at Zaku. You gutless tattletale. The other boy shouted, grabbing his Voltorb protectively. Those were sonic booms, Iruka mused, scratching his chin. Young man, I think you'll need to come with me so we can sort this out. We'd be happy to, Dosu said smoothly. Can we just? Zaku's panicked shout cut his friend off. You'll never take us alive. He proclaimed, raising his Voltorb high up. Torb, Boombox blurted out, eyes widening. Wait, Dosu cried, lunging, don't do that. Ninja vanish, Zaku said, slamming Boombox into the ground. Boom. The explosion blasted Naruto, Sasuke and Iruka clear off their feet. You imbecile. Dosu screamed as the two were sent flying off. Before losing consciousness, Naruto wondered if the two would survive the fall. Kin quickly made the first move. Decibel, seize that baby Pokémon with your psychic powers, she said, grinning. Her Pokémon's eyes started to glow. Water Lily, fire a water gun, fast. Sakura ordered. The Azuro launched a short, quick blast that hit the Chimecho, disrupting its concentration. Now slam it. Sakura cheered, marveling at her baby Pokémon's strength. Azu, Water Lily nodded, jumping up and down on her tail, building up power. Tsu with one final heave, she flew into the air after her enemy, Rill. Swinging in the air, Sakura's water type whipped her tail around horizontally, slamming it into Decibel with such force that the wind chime Pokémon slammed into a wall and slid to the ground with a groan. Agar. The Team Snake girl hissed, glaring at her Pokémon's prone form. Get up, she's only a baby. You disgust me, Sakura spat, feeling sorry for the Chimecho. Then she remembered what the Pokémon did to her Mankey just a few minutes ago, and the feeling was squashed. Get up, Kin shouted, stomping her foot. Do you have any idea what will happen if we fail this mission? Flinching, Decibel shot into the air, looking too battered to do much good now. Fine, make your Pokémon fight even when they can't go on, Sakura said, contempt obvious in her voice. That won't make them any stronger, and I won't let up. Even if I feel sorry for them, I won't let you hurt my team. 8 Sue. Waterlily cheered, punctuating her trainer's words with a powerful water gun attack. However, Decibel moved much faster than both Waterlily and Sakura expected, diving a few feet down and avoiding the attack. Acting quickly, the psychic type breathed in deeply and screeched out an astonished attack, unleashing a swift burst of red sound waves. Waterlily's poor ears were doubly sensitive to the sonic assault, causing her to roll on the ground and wince in pain. Good thinking, Decibel, Kin laughed. Now, grab her with confusion. No, Sakura shouted, once again seeing one of her team being lifted up into the air. Waterlily. Wahahaha. Kin cackled, holding a hand to her mouth and posing dramatically. Her mother had paid good money to put her through theater and school, after all. What was that you said about not letting me hurt your team? She asked tauntingly, watching the Azurill squirm in midair. Weaklings like you shouldn't even go on journeys, let alone take on trainers of my caliber. Oh look. The poor baby's eyes are tearing up and so are her trainers. They're both gonna start crying. Oh, Kin loved her job. You should have stayed at home and... Waha. The little baby Pokemon really did start crying, unleashing a blast of power Kin did not see coming. What the? Wah wah. Waterlily bawled, crying her eyes out as her powerful lungs unleashed a torrent of sound that broke Decibel's concentration. The psychic type dropped her, and Sakura moved quickly, catching her poor baby. Good job, Sakura said in a whisper that was inaudible over the din. Oh yeah? Well, this is nothing, Kin shouted proudly, looking at her Chime Echo. Show these two a real uproar. Chime, Decibel moaned obediently, breathing in deeply. She body started to glow a sinister pink. Crash. Without warning, the ceiling above Kin suddenly caved in, brining plaster, wood, concrete down right on top of her. Miraculously, Decibel wasn't hit by any of it. Cho? She squeaked, powering her attack down and floating down to her half-buried trainer. Cho? She squeaked again, poking her face to see if she was still alive. I'm Henry VIII, Kin sang softly, eyes looking in opposite directions. What, Sue? The crash was so surprising that Waterlily was too shocked to keep on screaming. Yeah. Sakura cheered, pumping her arm. Let's hear it for karma. She looked over, and realized that the reason the ceiling had caved in was because two boys had crashed through it, and were now atop the Team Snake girl. Zaku, one of them said weakly, I'd kill you if we weren't near dead. He had bandages all around his face. Don't worry, Daddy, the other one said, spaced out, Clefairy loves soda pop on toast. Obviously, he had landed on his head. Don't worry, you too. Sakura called, pulling out her Pokenav, I'm certified in first aid and I'm gonna call for an ambulance. Just let me call the police so they can arrest this crook first. Hey look, Zaku said, pointing at Sakura with his one uninjured arm. It's the Haruno girl the boss wants us to mug. What's she doing here? What do you mean by that? Sakura asked glaring. Then she noticed that they were both wearing a snake-like scarf, just like the Kin girl. You're all part of Team Snake, Sakura shouted in realization. She kicked one of the boys out of reflex and jumped away. I'm calling the cops on all of you. Not so fast, Kin said, her speech slurred as she sat up. We're still battling and my Decibel's gonna... Bonk. A Voltorb fell from the hole in the ceiling onto Kin's head, knocking her out cold. You so deserve that, Sakura sighed, dialing on her phone. Hello, police? Yeah, I need your help. A little while later. Thank you for your help, young lady, the police officer said, writing down the last bit of detail down on her report. Sitting across from her were Sakura, Naruto, and Sasuke. Now, all I have to do is fill out a few more things. After the police arrived at the factory, it didn't take them long to piece Sakura's attack together with the semi-illegal battles Naruto and Sasuke had. After hearing their stories and asking their questions, Iruka was talking to another officer in the other room. Everything seemed to be in order. Well, it seems you've all had a rough day, the officer concluded with a smile, looking up, and I'm glad to say we're almost done. Now what? Naruto asked, leaning forward. Are we gonna get a reward for helping catch a trio of Team Snake members? Or a medal? Or maybe the key to the city? He asked hopefully. More like, determine your punishment for having Pokemon battles in the middle of the street and causing untold public property damage, including the malicious destruction of a fruit cart, the officer replied, the sweet tone of her voice not changing. "Do what?" Naruto gasped, falling back in his chair. But we helped catch the bad guys." "Yeah, throw us a bone," Sasuke protested, glaring slightly. "Did no good deed go unpunished?" "Okay, good point, maybe I'll be lenient and just call your parents and tell them," the officer suggested, reaching for the phone. "Why don't you just shoot me?" Sasuke hissed coldly, crossing his arms. "My dad will when he hears this." "Oh come on, you're being way too dramatic, kid," the cop said, laughing slightly. "I'm sure your parents will be." "You don't know them," Naruto cut in, "his dad's a career cop. He once whipped our hides from dawn till dusk for pulling a harmless prank. And I'm not even his kid." What Naruto failed to mention was that the harmless prank involved herding a pack of stunkies into a dinner party, or that Naruto's granny Tsunade was punishing him right there alongside Sasuke's dad. Naruto's mother was too busy laughing on the floor to save him, and his father couldn't stand up to the old woman to save his life.